Good morning, friend. I just wanted to share with you this morning a word of hope. Just talk to you, get your day started right, get things going in the right direction for you. If you are like me, one of the things that I've been focusing on the last couple of days is if I want news, I turn to the TV. If I want hope, I turn to God's Word. And I'm really excited that God's Word provides that kind of hope for us. It's not something that's temporary. It's not something that changes every 4 years. It's real solid Word from God, hope. You know, there was a guy thousands of years ago by the name of Jeremiah who was living in a time when there was just, seemed like for the people of Israel, there was just disaster after disaster after disaster. There was nothing that he could do. He was an observer in all of this, but he was God's man. And he was so distraught over what was going on with his people that he actually wrote down all the things that he was feeling as a person in that time, in that terrible, difficult time. And he made a book out of it. And it's one of the books of the Bible. It's the book of Lamentations. Lamentations is the title. It comes from the word lament. It's worries and struggles and all of the things that he went through, he gives to us in here. And there is such an important lesson for us to learn from this entire ordeal that we're going through by way of what Jeremiah has to say to us in Lamentations. So let me take you there. In Lamentations, in chapter 3 particularly, if you get a chance to read this, it is amazing. In chapter 3, he talks about how difficult life has become for him. And each paragraph, he starts off with one new worry. And maybe you can relate to it in a sense, and in some ways maybe not. Maybe it doesn't apply to you. But listen to what he says. It's so interesting, the things he says in chapter 3. I'm the man who has seen affliction. Does that sound familiar? In the last 4 months, we've seen affliction. The next paragraph says, he's talking about how God is treating the people. He said, he's made my flesh and my skin to waste away. Sounds like a virus. Sounds like a sickness. Sounds like health issues. Sounds like a worry and discouragement, doesn't it? He says in the next paragraph, he has walled me about so that I cannot escape. You feel walled in? You feel like you're living in a place that you can't get out of? You're in your house every day and you can't go out unless you've got the magic mask on, and you can't do what you want to do even though you want to do it. Next paragraph, he says, he's like a bear lying in wait for me. Next, he says, he drove into my kidneys. In other words, he's like something pushing into the side of me that I just can't get rid of. It's a pain. I can't breathe. It's hurting my ribs. It hurts. He's driving. He has made my teeth grind on gravel. Can you even imagine what that's like? And he's feeling these things towards God because he's seeing everything that's happening in his land with the politicians and the diseases and the things that are going on around him. And he just can't handle it. And he writes all these lamenting thoughts, lamentations. But then we get to the end. Now, if you were like Jeremiah and all you saw were all these things to lament over, and you wrote this book or a book like it, then you would say, that's it. There's no hope. There's no way. If you ended it right there, there's no way. There's no hope. Life's a misery. Just get rid of it. Just get away from it. However you can, whatever you can do, end it all, right? But wait, listen to the hope that springs forth from Jeremiah's words. Listen to what he says at the end of chapter 23. After saying all those things, he says, but this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord is new every morning. His mercies never come to an end, never cease. They're new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him. Maybe you've sung that song before. Maybe you remember those words. Maybe somebody's preached in that particular verse, but you didn't quite grasp the setting. Let me give it to you again, just so you don't miss this. Verse 23, verse 21. But this I call to mind. What is that saying to us? This I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. He's saying, look, if you're not thinking right, you can't live right, you can't lead right, you can't do all the things you need to do in your day the right way unless you got the right kind of thoughts going on. And so we need to get up every day and get into God's word where there is hope. And he says this, he says, but this I call to mind. This, God's word, God's promises to me, I call to mind. This I call to mind. Therefore, I have hope. What is it that he calls to mind? The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies, they're never ending. They are new every morning. New every morning. Great is God's faithfulness. Great is God's faithfulness. Man, we can feel bad about the things going on around us. We can feel troubled by we can feel anxiety, we can feel discouragement, we can feel bitterness, we can feel cynicism, we can feel all that stuff. And all we have to do is read on our computers the first half of the day, and our day is sunk. It's over. It's gone. But listen, if you think on these things, therefore you will have hope. Listen, my friend, if you want politics, if you want news, turn your television on, turn your radio on. You want hope, turn to God's word. You want hope, listen to what God has to say. I've got all these lamentations in my life, yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Hey, I hope today you're able to start your day off with a mindset that says, you know what, there's a lot of stuff out there in the world that isn't good, but I'm thinking this way. I'm thinking the Lord is on my side. I have hope. His mercies are new every morning. His faithfulness is great. My friend, focus on that today. As news comes from all directions, remember where your hope comes from. Don't be a stranger. I'll see you real soon.